How are we doing? Are we rocking?
Yes, you are.
Cool. Thank you, the members.
So, thank you, members, for your attendance on this sweltering day. Hopefully we won't be too long and you can all get back out into the cool again, although it's too bad in the air conditioning here, is it? Mr. White, would you like to give any apologies, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, members. With an apology for this afternoon's meeting from Councillors Davies and Bridges. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White. Item 2 is the confirmation of the minutes from 24th of May. Is everybody happy with those? Are there any questions with those? No? Everybody happy that I sign those as true records? Thank you. Item 3 is any declarations of interest. Members, do you have any disclosable pecuniary interest or other registrable interest to declare? Nope, take that as a no. Thank you. Item 4 are items of business brought forward by the Mayor. There's just one item which is going to be brought forward to this meeting, which is a part 2 item, and I intend to bring that forward at item 13 at the end, towards the end of the meeting. There are no communications from the Mayor, and as yet we have no public questions, and there are no motions on notice. We can move on to item 8 on the agenda, which are the committee minutes. Councillor Ewins, would you like to present the minutes for the overview and scrutiny, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the minutes of meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee held on the 26th of April 2022 be received and noted. They are ONS 64 to ONS 74 and can be found between the pages 7 and 10 of the agenda papers. Do I have a second, please?
Happy to second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, members. Next, we have the Hub Committee from the 7th of June, 21st of June, and the 12th of July. Councillor Joy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the minutes of the meetings of the Hub Committee held on the 7th of June 2022, the 21st of June 2022, and the 12th of July 2022 be received and noted. They are minutes HC 122 to HC 1322, HC 1422, HC 1922, and HC 2022 to HC 3022, respectively, and can be found between pages 11 and 16, 17 and 19, and 1 and 5 of a separate circulation, with the exception of recommendations HC 822 Part 2, HC 1922, and HC 3022. I can have a seconder, please. Happy to second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Joy. And the minutes from the, oh, sorry, my apologies, Councillor Joy, recommendations. Sorry, that's why I was waiting for you to continue.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, I was waiting for a vote. In respect to recommendation HC 822 Part 2, I propose the following. That Council be recommended to approve an annual revenue cost pressure of 29,800, that's the West Devon Borough Council share, to be built into the budget process 2023-24 onwards. And a one-off expenditure of £100,520 to be funded from the 2021-22 Government Homeless Prevention Grant to be used to fund the additional posts for the new housing team structure as set out in Appendix 1 of the presented agenda report to the Hub Committee members. Could I have a seconder, please?
Happy to second, Madam Mayor.
Councillor, now we can vote, aren't we? Members, if you're happy with that recommendation, please indicate.
That's unanimous. Thank you so much.
Councillor Drury.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In respect of recommendation HC 1922, this will be considered later in the meeting at standalone agenda item 9. As previously advised by the Mayor, in respect of recommendation HC 3022, this will also be considered later in the meeting at standalone exempt agenda item 13. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Drury. We now move on to the Development Management and Licensing Committee. Councillor Yelland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the minutes of the meeting of the Development Management and Licensing Committee held on the 14th of June 2022 be received and noted. They are DMNL 1 to DMNL 7 and can be found between pages 21 and 24. Do I have a seconder, please?
Need a second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Yelland. Those are noted. Moving on to item 9, the Levelling Up Fund Round 2 and UK Shared Prosperity Fund. Councillor Edmonds.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At its meeting held on the 5th of April this year, the Council resolved to submit a revised bid to the Levelling Up Fund Round 2 in order to deliver the West Devon Transport Hub in Oakhampton. The original 6th of July submission deadline for the revised bid fell 13 days before today's Council meeting. So a version of this report was considered at the Hub Committee meeting held on the 21st of June 2022. The committee unanimously voted to approve the recommendations as set out in the report. The government is now advised at the council that the submission deadline has been extended to the 2nd of August. So the report in front of you today, members, seeks to recommend that the council ratify the decisions made by the Hub Committee on the 21st of June. Working in partnership with Devon County Council, Network Rail and GWR, the council will be resubmitting a bid to the LUF Round 2 for approximately £13.12 million with a 10% match funding element of £1.32 million. An amount of £1.2 million of match funding has been secured from Devon County Council, with West Devon Borough Council proposing to fund the remaining £120,000. It's intended that the match funding contribution of £120,000 be funded from the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, but in the event that the council is not allocated any monies from the fund or they are insufficient, the match funding contribution is to be funded from the Business Rates Retention Earmarked Reserve. More information regarding the Shared Prosperity Fund is set out in the presentation slides at Appendix 1. West Devon Transport Hub presents a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to transform Oakhampton and the surrounding hamlets with a multimodal travel exchange to create a thriving neighbourhood that welcomes everyone. I therefore commend this report to members, and if approved, a Shared Prosperity Fund bid for £1 million will be submitted before the 1st of August deadline. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edmonds. Members, are there any questions, please? Councillor Yelland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, just a quick question, if I may. I very much welcome this. This is going to be very good for not only for Oakhampton, but the much wider community. My question was, the report makes reference to Torwich, North Devon and Cornwall as being people who are going to benefit, or residents who will benefit. But in the actual document that follows after, it talks about potential partners being Teambridge, East Devon and Mid Devon. I wondered if there was any specific reason why Horwich, North Devon and Cornwall weren't included in that partners list.
Thank you, Councillor Yellen. Through you, Madam Mayor. I think at this point, perhaps I bring in Mr. Shears, who is I think the author of the bid, and you may be able to bring some clarification on that point.
Thank you. Chris Shears, Economic Development Specialist for West Devon Borough Council. So in response to that, in terms of the beneficiaries of the West Devon Transport Hub, then the surrounding areas that are most likely to make use of that transport hub are North Devon, Horwich and Cornwall, as well as obviously the benefits that it will bring to Oakhampton directly. In terms of the wider UK SPF bid that we're looking at and the programme of projects that are being included within that, we're working more closely, although not exclusively, with people like Teambridge, Mid Devon and other local authorities, but we're not working just with those. They're ones where we happen to have some shared projects going forward, but we're aware and fully in conversation with the other districts as well about what they're doing so that we can dovetail and align with those as far as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Shears. Members, any other questions? Councillor Cheadle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wondered if there's any indication when the decision on these funds will be made.
If we wave our fingers in the air, I think that we're expecting sort of towards the end of the autumn for a decision to be made on the UK Share Prosperity Fund. I'm not sure about the Levelling Up Fund, given that they've extended the deadline for submission. Although Chris, who's on the Teams call, might be able to shed some light on that. I genuinely don't know.
If you're looking at the screen, hopefully, Madam Mayor, I'm afraid, yeah, Chris's response is right. We're not clear, and even if we had a date, I wouldn't believe it, because last time it took about 6 months longer than we were supposed to, and we're already 3 weeks behind in terms of LUF submission through. No criticism, but because the portal hasn't been opened and now the deadline's been pushed back. So I'm afraid I think we would be looking to start chasing pretty actively by the autumn if we haven't heard anything, and I suspect the outcome of the politics at a national level will influence. Sorry, I don't know any more than that.
Thank you, Mr. Brooke. Anyone else? In that case, Councillor Evans, would you like to move the recommendations?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the recommendations, which can be found on page 25 and 26 of the agenda papers. Thank you.
And a second, please.
Very happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Jury. Back in. Members, is there any debate on the paper? Councillor Jury.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Very much welcome this report. Clearly, the end objective that this is aligned towards is something that we all believe, I hope we'll believe, will hugely benefit West Devon and the surrounding areas. There's a great deal of commitment from other partners in order to try and bring this forward if we can pull this off. And I think for the investment that we're looking to make, and I think we should be prepared to make that investment in our communities, the amount of funding that will leverage, that will benefit our economy and the wider economy is immense and will be very much to be welcomed. So I, for one, will be supporting this. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jury. Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I too will be supporting this. It's interesting, since the railway opened, it's performing well beyond any targets. Latest figures that I had from GWR for a website update, there's been something in the region of 80,000 journeys since November, which is about 250% beyond the projected targets for this time. And what the interesting point of that figure is, that I think, is that 40% of those journeys, their first journey is coming to Oakhampton. So I think that's a really positive thing. It gives an opportunity for the town to, see footfall and businesses to grow out of that. And certainly talking to local businesses in the town, I'm sure my other Oakhampton colleagues have done the same. It's very positive. They're seeing a correlation of footfall with the use of the railway. And as the leader said earlier on, the key factor of the hub will be a much easier access to the service from those people who live outside of the town, because they'll be able to come off the A30 very easily if they're driving and park, or if they're getting the local bus, like the number 6. The plan is for that will stop there as well. So certainly be fully supporting this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor Ewings.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wish to say that this project going ahead is really exciting and everything for Oakhampton, but what it's also doing is encouraging Tavi Rail, as they've now become, and the rail now is Tavistock to Plymouth, not Tavistock to Beer Alston. There was comments that not many in government will have heard of Beer Alston. I'm really sorry to say that to the councillors from that area. But this project is going with momentum. There is due to be a meeting with the 3 local MPs for this, and Minister plus representatives from Devon County Council, GWR, etc., to come and launch the Tavi Rail bid. So the more we can do as council to show our commitment to our expanding railways again, the better. And then hopefully one day, Tavistock to Oakhampton, Victoria, and Peter Tavi, whichever way won't upset anyone, will go ahead as well. So, it's looking really positive for West Devon as a borough. And as we said, with North Cornwall and Torridge, etc., being able to come down and join into the train service is only, great for all of us. So, yes, we're happy to support.
Thank you, Councillor Ewings. I'm sure we all look forward to being kept updated on how that progresses as it moves through. Councillor Daniel.
Madam Mayor, I want to say I fully support this bid, and I really hope we're successful in achieving it. And obviously, I really like the thought that we'll have active and accessible travel in the Oakhampton area. And I hope any plans that were made with view to linking up with the active travel paths we've already got, and the long-term plan to have an active travel ring all around Dartmoor. But I think this is wonderful news. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Daniel. Anyone else? In that case, members, we can vote on that. Can you indicate, please, your support?
That's 27. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Apologies, I missed Councillor Moody's hand. That is unanimous. Apologies. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. I thought everybody had their hand up. Thank you, members. We can now move on to item 10, which is the Fusion Solar Investment Proposal. Councillor Leach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report before you is a comprehensive one and hopefully self-explanatory. The agreement to install solar panels on both our leisure centres has actually already been agreed. However, due to the complexities of setting up the original proposal, which was a loan structure, the detailed Treasury management advice has highlighted some risks around state aid and subsidy control, which can be mitigated, but this would take some time and would have certainly slowed down the delivery of the project. Instead of having a loan with Fusion, we are recommending that the council funds the acquisition of solar panels direct as part of our capital programme, and that a separate management agreement is drawn up between the council and Fusion to the benefit of the council, I might add, so that the council annually receives an income payment from Fusion of the same amount of repayments that the council would have received from Fusion from the loan repayment. It's now become apparent that a much simpler route to achieve an identical outcome is available. This new approach overcomes the following issues: the risk of any state aid challenges, ownership of solar powers. They will now be owned by the council this way, and as the building is still under the council, it seems sensible that they should belong to the council, and this would probably prove beneficial in the fullness of time. No risk of default on the loan, as there will be loan structure with this route. And from a timeline point of view, resolving the Treasury management issues would have taken a long time and would have slowed down the delivery of the project. We also need to look at agreeing to grant an exception to the council's procurement rules, as Fusion has gone through a light touch process to find the right contractor at an agreed price. I'm happy to answer questions, but for the finer details, we have asked Mrs. Buckle or Mr. Brook, if you want to add anything. Thank you.
Members, anything? So, Mr. Brook, did you want to add to that before we have questions?
Thank you. Just to build on what's said there, which is that this is a very positive step forward and possibly a little overdue. And I'm delighted to be working with you all to see this ambition realised. We need to make sure all the technical solutions are in place for both leisure centres. They're quite challenging, but they're big arrays. And if you are prepared to agree the recommendations, the team will make sure that we deliver against them. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brook. Members, any questions? Mr. Councillor Renders.
Just one question. Sorry. I was thinking about my question. The question I have argues in which case it's a different scenario. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you, Councillor Renders. Mr. Would you like to have a stab at that one?
Thank you, Madam. Yes, the loan structure, as said. Thank you. They came to council previously, so it would be over a 19-year term, and that's the remaining term of the leisure contract. So that 300,000 would be over the 19 years, and an interest rate comparable to what we previously said. So it's exactly the same structure. It's just a different vehicle of delivering it. In terms of the management income, that would be a set amount per annum, so that we can repay the capital expenditure that the council would have spent, which is 300,000. So it's not dependent on turnover as such. It would be written into the contractual agreement that is a fixed amount that they would need to pay back over the 19 years to ensure that the council receives back its 300,000 plus the interest cost. That makes sense. Thank you.
Do you want another go at it, Councillor Renders?
Just a little quickly, sorry. Don't mean to be argumentative. But yeah, so it's agreed as laid out as per the loan, but we're now going to change it so that it's more of a management charge. One of the pointers that was made earlier on was the fact that
there was no risk, as in because it wasn't a loan as such, so therefore there was no risk of default. My argument or my question would be about the default element. How can there be no default if they haven't the funds to actually pay this off? Given the history that we've had at the minute, my concern is, I know we're wording it that there isn't as much risk, but to me it's still the same, isn't it? We're paying one way or another to put paneling on, which is fine. I haven't a problem with that whatsoever. It's just my concern with the revenue streams coming back in, given the history of how we would cope with that. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we would write into the contractual agreement that payment has to be honoured, so it cannot be deferred in the way that previously council have considered a report to change the structure of the management fee income that we were previously receiving from the leisure contract. So we would write a clause into there. We cannot mitigate that risk entirely. There will still be a small element of risk there. But it would be enhancing a council asset because they would be on our leisure centres and therefore enhancing the value on the balance sheet of the council as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, the asset would be depreciated over the years though, wouldn't it? So it's not an asset that would hold its value, but yes, okay.
Councillor Cheadle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is probably going to be too difficult to answer, but I'll give it a go. There are quite a lot of variables around at the moment. Interest rates, no one's really sure how far they're going to go. We're pretty not sure which direction they're going to go and how far. And the Public Loan Board vary their interest rates. So as the interest rate goes up, that will place a greater burden on Fusion to pay the loan, the interest on the loan. I'm guessing that's the first variable. The second variable is the unit cost of electricity. And I just wonder, I'm placed behind the overall idea of this, but I just wonder if in our modelling, we've modelled in these different variables, which could actually change quite considerably over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yep. And thank you for you, Madam Mayor. As per the exempt appendix last time, we would be looking at set interest rates. So we would make that interest rate somewhere between 5 and 6%. So that wouldn't change throughout the 19-year period. So we would get a set repayment back. In terms of how the council would borrow this funding, I would probably recommend that we internally borrow for that because of the value. It's 300,000. Normally, you would only borrow from the Public Works Loan Board if it's $500,000 or above $1 million. So I would recommend that we would internally borrow for that. So therefore, we are losing, what we're losing is investment income on our own funds, which we're getting about 1.5% at the moment. So we would actually be receiving back a small amount more than it would actually be costing us. I think in terms of energy prices, obviously this would help Fusion's financial resilience because actually it would mitigate their exposure to energy price increases because they'll have the solar roofs. And I think in terms of the larger management agreement, it would help ensure that Fusion are in a position that they can pay that management income to the council because it would mitigate the risk of energy price increases and help their financial resilience. So hopefully it is a sort of win-win for the council in that respect.
Thank you, Mrs. Buckle. I have Councillor Vashon next.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question refers to the actual purchase of the photocells on the roof. Obviously, we own the bricks and mortar of the buildings. We're proposing to purchase the array on the roof, which belong to the West Devon. Yet we're saying we want to grant an exemption to the usual procurement rules. Which is normal when we go out to tender for such things. And I understand that this is because Fusion will be undertaking to purchase these units. Why are we granting the exemption is my question. Thank you.
Mrs. Buff, would you like that one, or would you like to pass that one over to? Oh no, we have.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Leach. So yes, our normal route would be we would go out to the market for that. Fusion have previously already done that, so they have gone through a market testing exercise. Therefore, as it's now being recommended that it's part of the council's capital programme, the council is not going to. What we're recommending is the council is not separately going to go out and do a separate market testing exercise. We're asking to rely on the market testing exercise that's already been carried out by Fusion. And that's why we're asking for an exemption from normal contract procedure rules, which are set out in our constitution, which would require us to go out to the market with a tender. But that procurement exercise has been done by Fusion previously.
Thank you. Mr. Fairbairn, do you want to add to that?
No, Madam Mayor, I think Mr. Buff dealt with it adequately. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Stetkin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Hopefully it's a simple question. On the basis, and this is for you, Mr. Brooks, really, I think, on the basis that electricity is sold back to the grid, is sold back at quite a low rate, is it safe to assume that the electricity harvested from the solar panels will be primarily used to run the infrastructure of the leisure centres, i.e. heating the pool, running the air handling systems?
Over to you, Mr. Brooke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That is a very safe assumption and a correct one. Absolutely right. So the amount of power generated by the solar panels is well aligned to the amount of power that is used. So this isn't about selling back to the grid, which it normally would be. This is about providing direct power to their electrical requirements, which of course they have on during the day. So that actually, as a user of solar power, they're a very good match. So hope that helps.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brooke. Councillor Vaughan.
Councillor Pettigrew asked the question I was going to ask, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. In that case, Councillor Youngs.
I would just ask, are Fusion just putting solar panels on the 2 units they have with us, or are they also putting them on the units they have within the contract in Southampton as well, that's with us? Because when you say about the procurement and the 300,000 and that they've done research, etc., is that just for 2 leisure centres or across the piece, so Southampton, West Devon, or across all their contracts?
Councillor Leach, would you like to?
I think I'm happy to answer that. They're actually priced and tendered for all of those 6 in total. This is 2 for us, 4 for others.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is, I'm intrigued as to, I couldn't find it in the report, the stating of 19 years when modern solar panels now have a much longer life. I'm just wondering the benefit that we will derive from that with solar panels which have a life of 30, 35 years. They're guaranteed by a lot of manufacturers now. So I think, and my other concern is, will the structure of the building last as long as the solar panels that we're putting on there?
I think I answer the first one. 19 years is what's left on the contract. So the payment will be over that period. And hopefully the solar power, the panels will last much, much longer. About the fabric, I would not to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, members. In that case, if we are all done, Councillor Leach, would you like to move the recommendation?
Yes. I'd like to move the recommendations shown on pages 47 to 48.
And seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Cheetah. Members, we are now in debate. Who would like to kick us off with that one? Councillor Joy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Really good report, which I fully welcome. One of my colleagues, quite rightly, I think, drew attention to the fact there are a number of risks to any long-term agreement of this nature carrying forward from here, including interest rates and so on and so forth. We're clearly in a risky position anyway. We as yet have no idea whether the leisure market is going to fully recover, and indeed whether Fusion's business model will be such that it is robust enough to continue. But nevertheless, I think there are three very important aspects to this project. First and foremost, that by doing this, we reduce the council's carbon footprint, and that alone is a very significant contribution that I think we should all be looking to try and make and find ways to bring about. Secondly, by reducing or holding their electricity costs, we're at least giving Fusion a fighting chance of continuing and keeping leisure facilities going within the borough under the present model and under the present arrangement. And thirdly, it provides, I think, the best possible scenario under which we as a council might expect some future income from Fusion in accordance with the agreement and as built into our medium-term financial strategy. So for those pretty major reasons, I'm going to be supporting this, and I very much welcome this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Joy. Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I was going to say to add on, thank you, Neil. I'm sorry, Councillor Jory, for saying all those things. I think just as an additional point to that is that it shows very loud and clearly to all of our residents that we are committed to reducing our carbon footprint. And, you know, this is how we're going to do it. I think it's a really good visible way of showing everybody that we're going down that route and really doing it, especially on those kind of really high energy consuming buildings at the leisure centres. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Councillor Daniel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I also want to say that I think I'm really pleased that we will support this, or I hope we will support this, because I think reducing our carbon emissions overall by 2030 is something that we've agreed to do as an organisation, and this is one way that we can achieve that. And the other thing is that I see this as an extension of the support that we've already given to our leisure centres and Fusion in particular, and I think it would be not good to withdraw that now. So I would thoroughly recommend this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Daniel. Any others? In that case, Mr. White, we can move that to the vote. Those in favour?
That's 28 unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. White. We can now move on to item 11, which is the Milton Abbott, Chillerton and Kelly Neighbourhood Plan. I've got great pleasure in introducing this report, and I'd like to take this moment to recognise the hard work that has gone into getting the plan through the various hoops that it had to go through to be finalised and voted through by the residents of the area. It's a fairly straightforward report. Members, do you have any questions on it? In that case, I would like to update on the relevant page. Move the recommendations as indicated on page 59 of your agenda pack, which is that the council approves the making of the Milton Abbott, Chillerton and Kelly Neighbourhood Plan. I have a seconder, please.
Very much like to second that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jury. Members, is there any debate on this? Councillor Jury.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Of course, delighted to second the recommendation. A large chunk of the Milton Abbott, Chillerton and Kelly Neighbourhood Plan area falls within my ward. I'm only too aware of the monumental amount of work that a number of people have done over the last 8 years in 3 different incarnations of Neighbourhood Plan Group, as I understand it, to bring this report about. And I'd particularly like to thank Richard Allen, who has recently been chair of the Neighbourhood Plan Group, and under his leadership has managed to get the whole thing over the line with support from the parish council as well. So I'm really delighted to see this. It's excellent that it's managed to come together, and I'd like to commend the report to everybody and fully support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Drury. Councillor Ewings.
I would just like to say that I think it's amazing that this plan has been done when there are larger towns and villages that haven't got this far. You know, a few years ago, there was no parish out in this area. We took a decision many years ago that unfortunately and sadly, the parish council went. So for them to be able to put this document together and having looked at it, what a brilliant neighbourhood plan it is. It really is. It's easy to read. It's very pictorial and relevant. And if those congratulations could be passed back, Councillor Drury, I think it sets an example to certain other places that don't have one.
Thank you, Councillor Ewing. Yes, they go a small band of neighbourhoods in our area that have got plans made, and I look forward to seeing many more come forward, subject of course to the relevant white papers that are being proposed. Members, would anyone like to add to the debates? Councillor Ball.
Just a very quick one, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I remember when I was county councillor, in my patch, and there was a lot of challenges and difficulties that the group at the time had. I too like to voice my congratulations to them for bringing this together. And as you said, Mr. Mayor, it's always encouraging for us to have a plan come to the authority for us to approve and give that little part of West Devon a bit of say on what goes on in their community. So I'll be fully supporting this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. In that case, Mr. White, if there are no further debate, members, can you show your support, please, for the proposal?
That is unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. White. Members, we can now move on to item 12, which are council appointments. Councillor Drury, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members, there's a paper in front of you which outlines the changes that are required to be made following a request from Councillor Daniel to step down from the Hub Committee. I'd like to take this opportunity, if I can, to sincerely thank Councillor Daniel for the work that you've done in representing that theme within the Hub Committee, and thank you for that. In line with the political balance provisions, the West Devon Alliance has nominated Councillor Wood to replace Councillor Daniel as the lead member for the Natural Environment. There are some other housekeeping arrangements which are contained within the paper as a result of this change. And there is also one other appointment that also needs to be addressed, and I will raise this as an amendment to the recommendation as well at the appropriate time. And that is that we would like to nominate Councillor Terry Pearce to be appointed to the Joint Local Plan Board. I'd be happy to take any questions, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Drury. Members, are there any questions? In that case, Councillor Drury, would you like to proceed and move your recommendations?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I'm just groping for the page number. Thank you. I'd like to move the recommendation shown on page 139 with the addition of a recommendation number 5 that Councillor T. Pearce replaces Councillor L. Daniel as the appointment for the Joint Local Plan Board. If I can have a second of that, please.
Thank you, Councillor Tudor. Are we moving those in on block, Councillor Drury?
I'd like to move them on block, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, is there any debate on that, please? Councillor Cheadle.
I'd just like to also add my thanks to Councillor Daniels. She's done an amazing amount of work in the short time she's been on the job, as it were, on this hub lead role. So it's a tough act to follow, but I'm sure Councillor Wood will bounce into it with her usual enthusiasm. Look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cheadle. Councillor Daniel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say that I do regret for personal reasons, I've had to resign from my hub seat and also the natural environment lead role. I've relished developing and leading in this theme, and I wish Councillor Lucy Wood all success in following on. I'm sure she's eminently capable of taking on the challenges of protecting and enhancing our West Devon natural environment. And this is part of our council's climate emergency declaration, so I'll do all I can to support her. And thank you.
Members, anyone else? No. In that case, Mr. White, would you like to take the vote on that, please? Members, those in support, please.
That's 27 in favour. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Abstention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Members, we now move on to item 13, as previously discussed, which is the Waste and Recycling Services contract update. Councillor Pearce.
Exclusion of the public and press. Consider the following resolution to exclude the public and press. That in accordance with section 100A(4) of the Local Government Act 1972, public and press be excluded from the meeting during consideration of the following item of business, in order to avoid the likely disclosure to them of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3, part 1 of Schedule 12A to the Act. I therefore move that we go into part 2. Madam Mayor.
Oh, just vote. We need to vote. I don't think we need to vote on it, do we?
So clearly carried. Thank you. So,
Thank you, Mr. White. So, Councillor Edmonds, would you? Councillor Edmonds introduced it in the first place, so I've lost where I am. Yes, Councillor Edmonds, would you like to confirm the wording of the recommendation, please?
With pleasure, Madam Mayor, that it is quite a lengthy recommendation. Do you like me to read?
I think, Councillor Edmonds, we can just move the recommendations as on the exempt reports.
Yes, well, if you're happy with that, Madam Mayor, I'm happy to move the recommendations, which, as I said just now, you'll find those on page 1 and 2 of the additional agenda papers.
Thank you, Councillor Edmonds. Seconder, thank you, Councillor Drury. In that case, Mr. White, would you like to take the vote, please, on those of support?
thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's unanimous for those recommendations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, members. That now concludes our meeting. I would like to thank you for your attention and attendance, and would like to formally close the meeting. Thank you.